Good evening or good morning or good day. So, I presume for some weird reason you have decided to at least think about installing SteamOS on a system of yours. Disclaimers right here, right now. If you go down this path, be prepared to wipe your entire computer in a way that everything on it is completely gone. So, do make a backup if there is something important on that system that you're trying this with. Yeah, and I don't take any responsibilities if you follow whatever I'm showing you here and then wake up with a non-functional system. This is something for the adventurous people and for those who are very well aware of the risks. Also, SteamOS, being a Linux distribution, was designed for one specific purpose, and it was also designed to just work on now. Officially, I think it's 2 or maybe 2.5 very specific devices. One being Valve's own Steam Deck, and then these other things like the Lenovo Legion Go S, which is the first fully officially fully supported third-party device. Those are gaming handhelds. Those are not regular, normal computers in the traditional sense. They are just like a Nintendo's. They are basically Nintendo Switches built with normal PC parts. So keep this in mind. Whatever Valve did was they stripped down a Linux distribution and shoehorned and customized it so that it works with this very specific hardware. The most important part of that hardware is, at the moment, those are AMD components. When Valve designed their Steam Deck, they had entered a partnership with AMD and had AMD build a custom chip for them. Not that quite simple. Let's put it the other way around. Let's formulate it a bit more positive. It's basically something that that AMD had already done for Microsoft for the Xbox and Sony for the PlayStation. Both Xbox and PlayStation use customized AMD chips, which also come with graphics chips. And then, AMD designed something like similar, a bit less powerful, but a bit more energy efficient for Valve so that they can put it in a handheld device. The point being, it's an AMD architecture with an AMD graphics chips and an AMD CPU. And SteamOS was designed to work on that hardware. If you have an Intel processor and an NVIDIA graphics card, then don't even think about playing with SteamOS at this point. If you have an Intel Arc graphics card, if you are one of the 2 or 3 people on the planet that use one of those, I would also not go down this route and even think about it. But good news is there are a bunch of mini PCs out there that run AMD hardware that work very well. Like this gentleman here, which I will be using in this video in this session. That's a Minis Forum HX90G. It's an older model. There are newer models with more powerful Ryzen CPUs, and I think now also with a more powerful dedicated GPU in it. But the point here is this thing has an AMD processor and it has a dedicated AMD GPU. Out of the box, it comes with Windows 11 Professional, but it I know for a fact, because I've tried it before, it is also 100% SteamOS compatible. So the detailed specs of this machine that I'm using are this. It's a Ryzen 9 5900 8-core CPU. This version here came with 32 gigs of RAM. It has a dedicated Radeon RX 6600M graphics card with 8 GB of VRAM, also dedicated VRAM. This is not an APU like the Steam Deck uses. APU meaning that is a combination of a normal processor plus a graphics chip in one chip. This here is a real CPU and a dedicated separate graphics card, like you would normally have it in your desktop computer. This machine here came with a 1 terabyte M2 SSD. Yeah, and it has a couple of HDMI ports and display ports. It has Wi-Fi built in, Bluetooth, 2.5 gigabit LAN port, and as I've said, it came with a Windows 11 Pro license. And the reason why I bought it was because a couple days ago, or weeks ago now, Amazon Germany sold it for 599 euros in this specification, including tax. Something you need to keep in mind when you're not from Europe. European prices always include the VAT, which in Germany is 19%. And I know that in America you always see net prices and you have to add the sales tax. In Europe it's the other way around. All the prices are already with the tax. So $600 for this machine, which when it was released, I remember that did cost something around 1,200 euros, at least double from what you see here. So this basically costs exactly what an Xbox Series X would cost now in Germany. Yeah. And since it was so cheap, and I knew this machine had a second SSD slot, a free one, I also bought an additional M2 SSD, a Crucial T500 with 2 terabytes, which did cost an additional 152 euros, including tax. So when I sum this up, this machine here costs exactly as much as a PlayStation 5 Pro would cost in Germany. And they are being sold for 749 euros, I think, here. So this is an alternate console, which is where it gets interesting somehow, because yeah, it is SteamOS compatible. Of course, it can also work as a normal PC. These things have been tested a lot for video editing, for software development, and as a normal desktop PC replacement. Because this 8-core CPU with hyper-threaded 8-core CPU, it has actually 16 physical threads that it runs, is super fast and very usable. So you can use this as a normal desktop system, unless you do something extraordinarily demanding, which I wouldn't know what it is, for normal users who are interested in that kind of machine. It can handle everything you throw at it. That's one thing. But the other thing where it gets interesting is, of course, yes, SteamOS compatibility, meaning you can turn this with the original SteamOS in something that has a similar user experience like a gaming console. I put SteamOS on it, boot in SteamOS, hook a controller up, and you can use it on your couch, just like you would use your Xbox or your PlayStation, and just play the Steam library instead of the Xbox library or the PlayStation library. Now the point here is also, especially when we're talking about PlayStation, is I don't know what your personal take on this is. I used to have a PS4 until it got lost during the flood of 2021. And after that PS4 was gone, I never found a reason anymore to buy a new PlayStation. Why? Because the only PlayStation exclusive titles that interested me personally were the Uncharted series. And maybe Ghost of Tsushima, which I still haven't played until today, but those were the only Sony titles. Then the PS5 came out, and that hasn't changed for me. It's my personal preference, my personal interest, but the only games, the only Sony or PlayStation games that still interest me would be Uncharted and maybe this samurai game. Here comes the thing. Those have been ported to PC, and you can buy them on Steam. So there is no real need anymore to buy a PlayStation if you want to play these games. And Sony has been porting their game library like crazy in the last years. Might have something to do with their future plans. I mean, it's a well-known fact that both Microsoft and also Sony are dreaming of streaming devices and game services, and they are not really in the hardware business anymore, even though they keep pretending to be so, to be in the business of still selling consoles. Technically, they want to down the road, they want everybody to use streaming services. There are reasons why they are pushing these alternate devices, and why Microsoft also is no longer hasn't been interested in selling consoles for years. For them, everything is an Xbox. This thing here can also be an Xbox. Put Windows on it like I have here. Then you have here down there the Xbox app. I can stream everything that I own on Xbox, basically through Microsoft servers if I want to, because most of the games that I play or like, well, they would exist in a cloud version. And I don't need to have an Xbox anymore to play Xbox games. And Sony is porting everything to PC. And yes, this is where their journey is headed. But coming back on track, so SteamOS. Yeah. This can play Uncharted and stuff. And yeah. So let's just verify something here so that you know that I'm really on this machine and not just talking about it. You can see here, computer is identified as an HX90G, which is this baby. It has the RX 6600M, and it has a 16-threaded processor in it. And here you can see there's a 1 terabyte SSD, and the second disk is a 2 terabyte SSD. And this here is a USB stick, which we will later in a few seconds need to create the installation medium. So if we want to put SteamOS on it, first address is, of course, go to the official SteamOS page. Valve has the Steam support page where they explain everything and yalla 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 how to re-image an official device or how to put it on other devices. Even though this is not really supported, at least not officially from them, you can't whine about it unless it is this guy here. This is officially supported now with a label. But I guess you would have to call Lenovo support rather than Valve support if you run into a problem with this. And yes, they can. This is the 0.5% supported device, the ROG Ally. It can also run on this handheld. And you can also do it on a third-party device, like this one. Now, downloading the image would also, you would download the official deck image also from Valve here. Also, if you have a Lenovo, you can use this. This is the official SteamOS image, which runs on the Steam Deck. And it will soon, in a few minutes, also run on this box here. You need a USB stick, you need this image, and you need on Windows a tool called Rufus. It's all explained in this support page here. They also give you the download links. This is, I think it's also open source. This is a utility for Windows that can put disk images that you can download on a USB stick and make it bootable. It does that job for you. Now I have already downloaded all that stuff, of course. This is what you would get from Valve. Interesting thing is, this is not the version this is not the latest and greatest production version that Valve is still giving you, is offering for download. It's a 3.77. It's older. We are now, I think, officially at 3.8 something. And this 3.8 something is also what you get on the Lenovo Legion, for example, if you buy this device. But what they're doing here is you put this one on a stick, you install it, and then the very first thing you do afterwards is do a full operating system upgrade. Now, this here is Rufus, the utility. What we first do is, this here is some wonderful Linux zip format. What I also have on this system here installed is 7-zip. That's a free and also open source, if you don't know it, a zip utility like WinZip. But this is completely free and it supports basically all compression formats on the world. And it costs nothing, unlike WinZip. I keep talking about this or mentioning this because most Windows users, that I have worked with over the last couple decades, they all use commercial utilities normally and are not even aware of these things. Where we also at the point, maybe 1 or 2 sentences about my background. I've been working in IT professionally for something over 30 years now, usually in data centers or in satellite communications also, and networking. So it's my bread and butter stuff. And I've already been using Linux, I guess by now, like 15 years before most people even knew it existed. But I still do not believe that Linux is an actual desktop operating system. It's a server operating system for appliances, but don't let anybody on the internet talk you into believing that it is the one all and be all replacement for Windows or your Mac, and that it is the second coming of Jesus. No, it has its place, it has its uses, but don't fall into any traps. Also, be warned, when you put SteamOS on a device, yes, games that work out of the box or that Steam will install and pre-configure for you might get a performance boost over Windows, because SteamOS is a stripped-down operating system. It only launches what it really needs, and it doesn't have these trillions of background processes that Windows 11 comes with. Microsoft is addressing this currently with this Xbox on handheld project, where they will create a Windows version that does exactly that too. They introduced that a couple days ago, or they announced it. They didn't really introduce it. It's in development. And they have a partnership with ASUS to build such a device that runs then with this Xbox system. That is the main reason why it is faster. But it comes at a huge cost when you do this here with SteamOS. This still is a normal Linux experience, which means it's not just point and click and everything runs. In my experience also with SteamOS so far, the moment you leave the threaded and pre-configured path that Valve gave you, you open terminal windows again, you drop down to a console, you edit config files, you do a crap load of configuration, and yes, if that is your thing, then be my guest and have fun. If this is not your thing, leave now. Yeah, because this experience might not be what you were looking for. Okay, enough chatter. Let's load this thing. So that's the image. This is my USB stick. Well, now we start putting this wonderful Steam Deck repair image on the stick. Final warning. Boom. Now it kills my USB stick and puts this Linux thing on it. So other YouTubers might give you now a commercial break. Talk about their sponsors. I don't have a sponsor for this. I don't do commercial breaks. So we have to suffer through the boredom. As you can see here, that image is 7.5 gig in size. USB sticks, or this USB stick is maybe not the fastest on the market, but it's the one that I have. In case you wonder where this comes from, there's me and my gun got words for you. That comes from a conversation I had with Grok, Elon Musk's AI. It's a bit Sergeant Phoenix Gears of War themed. This is the uniform of, or the armor of Sergeant Phoenix. And this is my mascot, Party. Yeah, anyway, this is how this thing came to be. So in a classroom session where I would usually do something like this, it would be cooler because then everybody would have Teams on and we would have the cameras on and we could chat about something. At the moment, that is not possible. So let me talk through over the awkward silence. Yeah. And no, I'm not putting my camera on and have me in a little box running here. This really is only for people where I give training sessions. I don't need this on the internet. So, approaching our final destination. So if everything worked, there should be, oh yeah, FE. There it is. Now, famous last words. The thing is, I need to reboot now, and we have to enter the BIOS first and disable secure boot in the BIOS. Windows 11 wants secure boot, but SteamOS does not work with secure boot. So let me press. The Minis Forum machines want the delete button to be pressed occasionally, and then, yeah, something should happen here. I see shit. The wonderful things. I don't know what happened or not happened. Let's try this thing again. It was a reset. Was it the delete key or was it F7? Maybe I mixed it up. Oh, that annoys the heck out of me. So I had to power it down and power it on again. Wonderful. Okay. This here, secure boot, is the part where we need to go and say disable. That's all we have to do here. F4 says save and exit, which we will do now. Save configuration, yes. And this time we have to press F7. And then we get that boot menu. And then we boot the UEFI SAN disk, that is the USB stick. Yeah. If you've never seen a Linux booting before, that is absolutely normal what you see there. Some more modern versions might, or some more user-friendly versions might hide this from you. And when you boot Linux on a server, that's what you always see. And you will also always see a lot of error messages or whatever in these lines when you take the time. Just don't worry about it. Normal business. Why the heck did this boot back into Windows? I'm getting really pissed now. These things are why I am not a frigging Linux fan. Ah. Finally. So, it booted into Linux, into the KDE desktop, which this is. And you here have the options of some repairs. If you already have a Linux device or a SteamOS device, you can repair a SteamOS install, which we won't be doing and can't be doing. There's nothing to repair. There is a terminal window, and here's wipe device and install SteamOS. This is where we're going. Maybe I should first connect to my local wireless. So that we have internet on this machine. Well, which could be very important. Now, let me launch wipe device and install SteamOS. Yes, proceed. Now this is the part where you can still chicken out and run away. But when you click proceed, your hard disk partitions will go within a split second. So if you get cold feet, cancel this, shut down the machine, remove that USB stick, and be happy using Windows or whatever it is. Yeah, the system gives you another 5 seconds here, the installer, in case you chicken out. Well, we're already done here. already restoring the SteamOS image to the hard disk now. Yeah. So, reimagining complete. Yes, we proceed and reboot. We no longer need this USB stick once it's done. So, what the heck has this machine been doing? Something is super fishy. What the flying fuck? It put it on the secondary disk. You gotta be shitting me. Fucking Linux shit. Goddamn piece of shit. Wonderful. But that is a setup that I can't use. So I'm going to start from scratch. Okay. Back on the stick. Let's make this a bit easier to view. Okay, what I now did is I wiped both hard disks in that system. I don't know why SteamOS decided in its infinite wisdom to put it on the secondary hard disk. When I gave this an initial try a couple weeks ago, it did not do that. It behaved as it should. Anyway, let's try this again. NVMe 0 and 1. That's the primary, as it should be. Yeah, okay. So, hopefully it'll now work. After I had brutally wiped Windows 11. Okay, so what I had to do is I had to switch my video grabber card. For some reason, the card that is 3 times as expensive as this one here apparently doesn't like SteamOS or whatever is currently running here, whatever kind of resolution and refresh rate this is. The Ugreen card doesn't stomach it, but this She mask card obviously works. Okay. I think I have to do quite a bit of editing. Okay, let's choose a language. I presume you all would like to see English. But I'm not giving you an American time because guess what? I'm in Europe. I'm actually here. Yeah, don't worry about this when you see this. From what I can tell, and also in other videos and other articles that I found, it seems when you don't have a Steam Deck, it always seems to be saying this, your battery is low. Well, yeah, I guess my battery is low because this thing doesn't even have a battery. So, yeah, very unsurprising. So I'm not sure if this already was a 3.8 upgrade. I don't think so. I think there will be another round of upgrades. Now I will stop recording for a second because these credentials are none of your business. Oh, great. Yeah, we booted into the Steam console view. What did they call it? What do they call this? Big something something? Truth be told, I'm not a real Steam user. I usually use, if I play on PC, I buy and download my stuff from GOG. I don't like Steam because it is a DRM tool, and on GOG I get actual backup media if I want them. I can archive them, and everything is completely DRM free on GOG, and never requires an online connection to work, for example. So when I buy games, I buy them on GOG if I can, and not on Steam. But okay. What's this guy doing here? Steam Deck client update. Yeah, there's a bunch of updates in the pipeline already. Oh, we are on 3.7.8. That is good. So it did update. Can we Now I need Bluetooth. I need to enable Bluetooth. Why is it not seeing my controller? Ah, finally. Okay. This one I want. There. Okay. Let me see what we... Oh yeah, okay. The controller is now working. Look at that. So it's a normal Xbox Series X controller that I have connected wireless without cable, which explains probably the problem here, why it was a bit more complicated. If you use a wired one, that should work out of the box. Let's start with the updates. Yeah, you should definitely, when you install it, go through all the updates. Whatever you find, it's highly recommendable. So yeah, this is the last stuff that I had installed. Recent games is the right title, I guess. Yeah, my Steam library is here. Well, we are not done with the setup yet. And as you remember, there was a second hard disk in this system, which at the moment SteamOS does not know anything about yet. And I'm pretty sure there's also another problem here, which doesn't affect any Americans, and that would be the keyboard setting. I'm pretty sure this thing still runs on an American keyboard, and not on a German one, which is what I'm using. Yeah, QWERTY. We have QWERTZ with a Z instead of a Y, and umlauts, of course. The problem here is this is what it offers here is just for the would be on a Steam Deck, would be for the touch interface. This is not the physical keyboard that is connected to your system. That's one issue, which is not important when you stay in this here. But the moment you go to the desktop, which this SteamOS thing also has, it's hidden here under power, then you can switch to a real Linux desktop. They use the KDE desktop and the K desktop environment, KDE. It's a question of preference. As a European or / German, I should also like the KDE because it originated in Germany, this thing. But what can I say? I very much prefer GNOME, which originated in the US. But that is not a discussion here and not an option. It's not, maybe SteamOS uses KDE. Let's make this more readable. Higher, smaller resolution. Yes, keep this one. So I need a terminal. Console. See here, this should have been umlauts. Ü, Ö, Ä, but it's using the American layout. Now you could change this in somewhere also here, I guess. Somewhere in the GUI. There should be an option for it. Keyword layouts. The yes. The problem is, for some weird reason, I think this I don't need. This won't survive a reboot as far as I remember. For some strange reason, and it seems also to be a known bug. The fix, from what I read online, Jesus. Wow. Welcome to a castrated Linux installation. Not even the VI editor is on here. Okay. Yeah, whatever. Let's leave it at this. Let's focus on something else, and that would be the second hard disk. Oh, I launched a partition manager. I want to create a file system on it. I use ext4 file system. Call this disk what it is, a 2 terabyte SSD. For simplicity, everyone should be allowed to use this thing, not just the admin. Let's apply. Now it's formatting the disk. The point now is to tell Steam, the Steam client, that it also has a library on this second hard disk so that you can install Steam games on the secondary hard disk. And there's also you have to do here. In the desktop environment. You cannot do this in this big theater thing. I have to launch Steam here, this version of Steam. And what I can know, and you have to go to the settings here. Oh, they changed it. Okay, here. We can add a drive. Right. Sorry, you have to mount this first. At the moment we just have a file system, but it is not available for the user yet. In Linux land, you have to mount these things. Think of it like plugging in a USB stick in your Windows machine or your Mac, and then once you plugged it in, a window pops up and you can use this thing. In Windows it would get a drive letter normally. And here you have to assign a path on the file system. Let's see if I can create a new folder here. Yeah, now begins that shit. I'm not an admin. I'm not root. I'm not allowed to create a folder there. So I have to go back to the terminal and become root with super user. And I did not create. What the mother? Oh gosh. No. Okay. Yeah, come. Yeah, that was the black magic. You first have to give your Linux user account a password, which it doesn't have. And once you have, that would be this command here. That is the non-root user, the non-admin user, pass WD. Then you assign yourself a password, and then you can switch to the user, to the super user, to the root mode. Okay. And lo and behold, then I can create look at this. Then the folder exists that I want. No. Okay. Now we have a mount point. That hard disk should now be available. And going back here. Didn't do anything. Wait, there was something more about this thing. remember something. Exactly, it requires a reboot after you've done this, otherwise the Steam client doesn't know about it. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, okay. Now the second SSD will be the default storage for the Steam library, which is what I want to do. Yeah. So the point was to select it and then say here, make default, which I go now on the internal, which is no longer the default library. I could switch back. That's not what I want though. Yeah, secondary is now my default location. Wonderful. Now there is another thing that's important to do. Oh, don't want the... What was the keyword I have to... Oh, Jesus Christ. Aha. This is the guy that we want. So, okay. We have to launch the software center. Which appears to be called Discover. Oh, there it was already. And in that software center, we can search for Proton. If you install this Proton Up Qt, that package, which will then later be available as GE Proton in Steam. And you might want to have this around for certain games that are not compatible or don't work well enough with the default Proton in Steam. Proton is that compatibility layer that translates the calls that your games make to hardware and drivers to Linux drivers from Windows to, this is the Windows to Linux compatibility layer. That is Proton. And Steam comes with an old version of Proton, which usually suffices, but not always. For example, here the Lego Lord of the Rings does not run with the Proton version that comes with SteamOS. Or it runs, but buggy and with graphical glitches and whatnot. So we need this one. What I also need is this guy here, the Heroic Launcher, because as you can see here, that allows me to also install games from the GOG, from my GOG library. For those of you who use Epic, there's also supports Epic. So I want to have this one. Oh, it kept the keyboard. Great, then I don't need anything else. I don't want Epic. But this one I want. So I'll stop recording for a second. So I'm connected to GOG. Oh, and there she comes, my GOG library. Great. Now I can install something from here. Let me install this as a small one. The problem here is that you always have to go back to desktop and go into Heroic Launcher and install the game from there. And as you can see here already, this does not really care for the settings that we had in Steam, where I want the game installed. Well, I want to have this on my secondary. I have to create a new folder here. And yeah, choose this. Let's see what happens. Yeah, it created a folder for the game, as it should. Great. There is a different solution for SteamOS where that basically sits between, I think, Heroic and Steam itself, and it works like a plugin for the other user interface, so that you don't have to go down to the desktop and do this stuff here. Okay, game should be here. Now let's return to gaming mode. And I think we are screwed once more. Yeah. That's the problem. It's not here yet. Again. This is something you only have to do for non-Steam games. And only in these current versions. As the dialogue showed, they are working on, the Heroic guys are working on this somehow. Or Steam is working on it somehow. Whoever is working on it, somebody's working on it. But for now, you install a non-Steam game manually, like we just did. You have to reboot, restart this whole thing. And then, once it's back, what the heck? It should have been here. Anyway, then let's install some thing from Steam. Just for the record, I played this longer than just 42 minutes. I completely finished this game, but in the GOG version. Or was it the Xbox version? It's also possible that it was the Xbox version. I think I have 4 copies of this game. I also have it on Switch. It was the next best thing to getting the original, or to get something like a Diablo 1 experience without actually having to play Diablo 1. I wanted to have it on a console, and there is no Diablo 1 for consoles. But this is an interesting clone of Diablo, of the original Diablo, in a paper cut universe. It looks pretty cool. Okay, let's see if it works. Yeah. Sound would be nice, don't you agree? Yeah, that's... Here we go. have forgotten how to play this game. Anyway, it's a Windows game, it works. Here's some more interesting stuff. Why is... I want to know where my zombie night terror has ended. Why isn't it here? What? Ah, that installed a Linux version somewhere, or not. Great. That was not really what I wanted. I didn't know it had a Linux version. Let's try something else. Well, this gentleman here does not have... Proton G. Yeah, let's try this. So let's see if this thing runs. I think by now you've already gotten the idea that there's a huge difference between marketing and the reality of using Windows games on Steam, right? Ah, there's an Add to Steam button. I'd forgotten about this. Oh. Installing redistributables. Yeah, it's installing DirectX 9. That's an older game. Okay, that stuff would also happen under Windows. Look at that. But I don't want to launch it here, technically. Let's return to gaming mode. See if it's already in the library. Okay. Oh, there's a non-Steam game. I would have thunk. So that's a GOG game in the Steam library in big picture mode. Accessible. Oh, I have to configure sound here again. That's the other annoying thing, that we have two different worlds here. It has forgotten, it has not taken over my desktop sound configuration. So now just for the kicks, let me restart this. You just heard sound. The thing is, if I think this has to be configured manually also every time, unless you do some more low-level configuration change on the US side. I want my audio through HDMI and not through the onboard sound card on this machine. Unfortunately, it defaults to that sound card or to that line out. Yeah, no sound. And now comes the other part. For some reason, now the whole sound thing is completely gone. And this has been happening under Linux with this machine quite often. In my experience, Linux and sound is worse than Windows and sound. And we all know that Windows and multimedia is already worse than Mac. So there's a reason why all these graphics and artists and sound designers and whatnot prefer Macs for their daily work, because they want to have something reliable in this department. Okay, let me try this again. Ah. It's quite interesting that the sound icon is gone. Anyway, the non-Steam game now launches. Could do everything with a controller. Yeah, let's skip this or...
The man has been brutally spat out from the darkness that surrounds the shores of our reality. He has come to fight a decisive battle in Night Springs.
What the... I wanted to activate the Steam overlay. have no clue where it is. I'm not a Steam user. See, here, Steam has forgotten that I set the keyboard to German. Whatever. Yeah. I don't know. Didn't we install a GE Proton? We did. So, if you are still excited about the idea of using SteamOS on a normal computer with a huge Windows compatible library, if you still think that's a great idea, then I don't know what to say. Because I can tell you one thing, once this video is done, I will reinstall Windows on this machine. Because at 55 years, this year is so off-putting and such a waste of time and not good for anything actually. It doesn't give me any benefits whatsoever, except for making a nice video about it. But none of this turns me on anymore. This doesn't solve problems, it creates new problems, and a crap load of them. It doesn't make anything easier. But hey, that's just me. Software center. Where's that Proton thing? Oh no, no, we just installed the installer utility. Right. Didn't install any modern Proton yet. I have to do this in a second step. Beautiful. Oh yeah, one thing people like to confirm, just a thought that I currently have when you see it, all this stuff here. People then like to keep mentioning that But the Mac is also based on Linux. No, the Mac is not based on Linux. The Mac and Apple's operating systems are based on BSD Unix, and originally, because they were based on Next Step. Next Step was based on the original BSD Unix, and then Apple later used FreeBSD as a foundation and replaced the FreeBSD kernel with an own Mach kernel, and that is what they're doing. They don't use Linux. And also, just for the record, Sony and Nintendo both also based their operating systems and the PlayStation and the Switch respectively on FreeBSD, not on Linux. Just for the record. And the thing is, why did they do this? Because of the license, of course. It's not one of those viral GPL licenses that force you to make every customization also publicly available. No, with BSD Unix, you can take whatever there is, or with BSD licensed products, you can take the source code, modify it, and then keep it shut. That's what the license explicitly allows. That's why they're doing this. Also, in my experience, everything around FreeBSD tends to be faster than Linux. Oh, was another reason. It requires less resources and has higher performance. Just a side note. So we have Proton 10.4. Beautiful. Now return to gaming mode. The sound is gone again. There it is now. GE Proton. And here's the Steam overlay. Okay. Now the wonderful thing is, when I launch this game, I should switch off the sound, simply because I would immediately get copyright strikes on YouTube because of the soundtrack. When I uploaded my playthrough video, one of my non-commentary gameplay videos about this thing, I had like 11 copyright claims in that frigging video because you cannot disable the music in the cutscenes in this game. But this here is flagged in Steam as not compatible with SteamOS. That's why I picked this. Can we... So... I'd like to see, yeah, this, it has this here. Yeah, as you can see, this here is, Steam tells me that this works, but here Steam says this game doesn't work. Mm. Not even searching works properly. Oh, Jesus Christ. No. Okay. It says it right there, unsupported. SteamOS. When you use SteamOS out of the box. Huh? Let it play with the Vulkan shaders. This, by the way, is another reason why I prefer gaming on consoles, after having been a PC user for ever. I mean, seriously, I learned programming when I was 12 years old. That's like 43 years ago. I've been using PCs since the original IBM PC, 1984. But I frigging hate PC gaming nowadays. On any console, you never have to deal with shit like this. Just as in never. So, the unsupported game. So, and since we're using Proton GE, there are no graphical glitches in this. Usually there would be a lot of stuff wrong. I mean, it just, there would be geometrical shapes on here and things like this. Oh, video settings, let's put this to, just for the kicks of it. So there we go. I think it's safe to say that the unsupported game works. Oops. This is the not family version of Lego at the moment. Oh yeah, right. We're not getting another cutscene.
Frodo! Mary, it's Frodo Baggins! Hello, Frodo!
Oh, fuck it. Yeah. I love it when games give you the music off button only to completely freaking ignore it. Anyway. I would just like to skip the heck out of here. Okay, so I think there's a command line utility, an actual utility that allows you to configure a default audio device. I don't think there is something in the desktop GUI for this that actually works. Let's see. Doesn't even respond to the mute button, isn't that cool? Oh, it does. Okay. Just not there. Yeah, somebody has to learn something about user interface design here. This icon should change when you mute. It is set as default. Which is fascinating because one less reboot before we wrap this up. Because I'm pretty sure that Steam Big Picture will not remember anything about this. That's what I said. No sound. Let's see if the desktop remembers it. I mean, you saw we configured it as that HDMI port as the default output device, right? We don't even have internet at the moment. Well, now it's there. See, it changed back. Welcome to the world of Linux. And this is what people tell you is so much better than Windows in every aspect. They just won't shut up about it. Again, it is a server OS, guys. That's what it is. And it is for appliances. And in this case, you could even count the Steam Deck as an appliance because it's a very specific set of hardware that they can customize and configure to death, and they can customize and configure their operating system to work with that specific piece of hardware out of the box. And then Valve can tell other manufacturers, yeah, sure, you can have our SteamOS and even in an officially supported state, but these are the hardware specifications that you have to use. Or they negotiate a certain set, and then this thing just checks, okay, I'm running on the Legion, then I configure myself as follows. But as you can see here, I mean, Valve did not design this stuff here. This is just standard Linux stuff. This is standard KDE stuff here. And it says here, it shows even. I don't know, it takes you a year to work, or what is this? Now it's here. I bet this doesn't work. And it doesn't. So the desktop, after 5 minutes, remembered the setting, apparently somehow. But this thing here simply doesn't. I find this utterly and brutally annoying. That it does not remember the settings. There is no save button here. Yeah, if you have also some piece of hardware where you have more than one audio output, you will most likely run into this problem too. This here is something where you should also keep an eye on, by the way, now that we just stumbled across it. Because should you have a rather slow internet connection, run a huge download in the background, you don't want your system to go to sleep, right, while downloading. Because usually you launch this stuff before you go to bed and then let the machine download for 6, 7, 8 hours, right? At least that's what I usually do. And when you then have a setting here that says sleep after an hour, you will always be frustrated. Why did the download not finish overnight? That's why. Okay. I mean, these downloads here take all a bit longer. But I know that Dead Island, that they both run. I know that this game runs, Mutant runs, Lamplighters League runs in 4K on this machine. Without a hitch. Uncharted runs on this machine. In Linux. That's the point. Dying Light definitely runs. Where you will get an issue is... Oh, I don't have it in Steam. Cyberpunk will cause issues simply because the Windows version of Cyberpunk comes with a stupid launcher, and that launcher will crash. That launcher will not work. You can install the game, but then afterwards you have to reconfigure it to not use the launcher, but to launch directly the game's exe. The big problem with that will be when you bypass the launcher. If I'm not mistaken, then you also bypass cross progression. Now, if you're like me, I have 3 copies of Cyberpunk. I have one on the Xbox, I have the PC Windows version, and I have the Nintendo Switch 2 version of Cyberpunk. So cross progression for me is kind of something I pay attention to, I want to use. And this will not work with SteamOS. Because the launcher is the thing that logs on to the GOG or CD Projekt Red account, where the files actually get synced. They do not get synced through Steam between the platforms. CD Projekt Red is using an own platform by now. On The Witcher, at least between The Witcher on Windows and The Witcher on Steam, they use the Steam services also from the Nintendo version of the game. But with Cyberpunk, they created their own solution. Similar situation with Larian and Baldur's Gate 3. They also use a launcher. They also want to sync their account against a Larian Studio account, and they want to use Larian backend to sync the save games. In Divinity Original Sin 2, they were also relying on Steam services. So the Switch version of Divinity 2 and the Windows version, they used Steam, and that cross-progression only worked between those 2 platforms and on Steam. Or if you had the Xbox version, okay, then that was a different topic. But the Xbox could not sync with the Steam version or the Switch version. So, Baldur's Gate 3 and Cyberpunk are 2 games that I know come with launchers and that have issues. And I have them on GOG, not here on Steam. Why should I use a DRM'd version when I can have a DRM-free version of the game, right? Yeah, there was a question that nobody can answer. I mean, here is Baldur's Gate and Cyberpunk is here. So you can install them through Heroic, but then afterwards the actual launcher has to be customized so that it does not start with the launcher but with a game exe directly. Now these are 140 gigabyte downloads each or something like this, which I will not be doing in this session. Definitely not. But I'm just mentioning it if you have the GOG version of these games. I don't know if the Steam versions also come with launchers. maybe not. But I saw this launcher from this guy here crashing. This game would not run thanks to the launcher. So that's something that needs to be configured. All the others that I tried worked, more or less. What did not work was this gentleman here. But in all fairness, the original Windows versions of this game do also not work on Windows 11 on an AMD machine. At least not as they come. That is a driver, this is a known driver issue. They require some very old AMD Radeon driver on Windows to work. There needs to be some files need to be copied manually, another hack. And yeah, if I want to play this game or these games, my Switch runs them better, or my Xbox. They don't have these issues. And strangely enough, the Xbox, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, is also an AMD. It uses AMD hardware. But AMD on Windows is an issue for this game. Don't ask me why. Or, yes, well, yeah, something changed in the drivers. And these games don't know anything about it. But yeah, SteamOS will, as far as I remember, not help you with that either. They will just not run. They will also just quietly crash or hang and load for eternity and nothing happens. This is something, but this is Doom 3 specific. But that's the whole thing here, yeah. I mean, this is a PC, even if you, and your Steam Deck, even if you use this on a Steam Deck or on a Legion, it's still a frigging PC. These devices do not give you a console-like experience where you buy a game, you click on download or put in the cartridge or the Blu-ray or whatever, and the thing will just magically work, which is why you buy consoles. Steam is not a console. SteamOS is not a console. So Steam Deck is not a console. It's a glorified handheld PC. It will not take away any of these typical PC issues. Well, there's a reason why Nintendo sold 155 million units of the Switch and Valve only sold an estimate of roughly 4 million Steam Decks. No. But the Steam Deck is also more expensive, by the way, in a similar storage configuration. So, yeah. Compatibility. SteamOS does not give you additional compatibility, rather the opposite. You have even less compatibility. So if you really want to do any of this and play with this, be aware that you might shoot yourself in the foot. If you're just curious and want to play with this, which I usually do, because that's the second time I installed this now, yes, there's still something left in me that is interested in exploring these things. But from what I've seen now 2 times is this cannot be my daily driver for this purpose. It's too broken. It's just simply is too broken, and they will never fix this. My expectation is now that they have an agreement, that Valve now has an agreement with Lenovo and Asus and whoever else are also interested in having SteamOS based versions. My guess is there will never be a Steam Deck 2 from Valve, or maybe there will be one as a reference hardware. And they will just then start licensing maybe the SteamOS to third-party manufacturers. But in the Steam Deck stuff, I don't think that there's any real money in it for Valve. What they want is to have the Steam store and the Steam client on any machine. That's what they want. And from what we now heard is that new Xbox thing, that Xbox software for handhelds, will also be Steam client and SteamOS and Steam, not SteamOS, but Steam client and Steam store compatible. It will also have this out of the box. So the real reasons why Valve wants this stuff are going out of the window. And with a Microsoft-backed operating system that will cut away the performance issues that they had with Windows so far on those small handheld devices, if they can fix this, there is simply no reason for this here to exist any longer. My 2 cents. I don't think this has much of a future, unlike everything the internet tries to tell you. And even if it is a niche solution, and it will always be a niche solution. And when I compare the completely noiseless Switch 2 with these brutally loud and annoying PC handheld devices, why would anybody want to buy that shot? I don't. That much I can tell you. Noise is an issue for me. I like my hardware quiet. This mini PC here is completely noiseless. Like I said, the Switch 2 is noiseless. We don't hear her, not even when Cyberpunk is running. You can't, well, and nothing stresses the system more than that game. I don't hear the fans. It just doesn't produce any noise. So that is that. I know that all PC handhelds that I've heard about or watched videos about produced insane amounts of noise. Anyway, so yeah, up to you. We went through this adventure here. It's up and running, as good as it gets. Maybe there is stuff that can be fixed. I don't know. But I already feel that I personally will not be investing any more time in this. I am not a fan. I am not convinced. I am not sold. Let's see if shutdown works. So, yeah. Thanks for suffering through this with me. Let's see how much I will edit out of this or not, or if I even publish this video. Okay. See you on the next one when it's just about games again and not about this stuff. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Okay. The solution to the audio problem. Wait. The solution to the audio problem is in desktop mode. Where else? Of course, you have to always constantly switch between two things here. As in this volume control thing, in the configuration, you have profiles for each device. And the thing is to disable the profiles that you don't need on your configuration. So I only have the HDMI DisplayPort audio controller still active. The other two that I have here are switched off. Now when I reboot the machine, we will even hear the valve start sound. Provided, of course, that it does not switch off for some reason the sound card altogether. Or that the sound demon dies and doesn't come up. Because that's another problem. There we go. So. Sound now works even after we started the system from scratch. So that manual fix is there. I think now I still have my keyboard issue. Oh, here is my German keyboard. Okay. Okay. So there was a fix for the sound thing. And let's see if I find something else that I might want to add as an appendix to the original video. Okay. See you then. So, second appendix, Cyberpunk. Yeah, that's the whole point. It does not run in big picture mode, but the GOG version, when you installed it and did not reconfigure anything, just when I just kept it at the CD Projekt Red installer configuration, then it runs from desktop mode. I could launch it here and configure it even to log into my CD Projekt Red account and sync the cloud saves from there. It just takes an hour to fire up, it seems. Oh, Jesus. I hate it. Before I started recording, I had it running. Oh, you can't make this up. sounds great, doesn't it? This is Linux for you. Okay. What the? So it didn't mount the secondary disk this time. This is a super reliable operating system. Really have got to be shitting me. What is this crap here? Leckertisch. Linux is such a waste of lifetime. It's beyond. What the fuck? This is unbelievable. How could it forget this configuration? Okay. Yeah, that is now wrong, of course. Look at that. The Cyberpunk launcher is finally there. A year later. Okay, then let's try. For a second there we had it. Nobody in the whole universe can tell me that this shit is worth it. I mean, not installing Windows just to wade through all that crap. You know, I can install why I can understand why people might want to avoid Microsoft operating systems because they don't want to be in control and have a custom system and have control over the source code and yalla yalla yalla. But certainly not to then enter another digital rights management prison called Steam, which takes away all that freedom from you again. So where's the purpose? Well, there's a whole load of bull. There we go. Okay, so we don't need the launcher every time. It just needs to run once.
Hey everyone, feels great to have you back. So then, did you all hear about that Arasaka aircraft carrier docked in Night City called Kujira, or the Whale? Apparently the Corp figured it wasn't safe in Japanese waters, afraid some local fishermen might harpoon it for science.
while it's running. Whatever.
Let's get out of here. Elevator gets us to the garage direct.
Good work. Shit show's over. Cutting my wires now. See you in the near future.
Listen, Chica, I got this thing. Mind if I borrow your wheels?
Huh.
I got a date with Misty.
Which part of I don't want to hear that shit didn't it understand? This game annoys the crap out of me. I think I told this piece of garbage that I don't want to have music, right? Oh, this here. Sure, I need 2 volume sliders. Because radio music is something else than normal music. Who came up with that idiocy? Now I'll show you another nice little thing. See this gentleman here? He sits next to me. I'll show you another example of why this game is so bad. see him? Not doing anything.
Get out of line! Please, Doc! Come out with your hands up!
He doesn't even notice that we're in a firefight. So, yeah. That's a masterpiece game, yeah. It's the game with the most brain-dead NPCs I have ever seen. Anyway, so enough of that. That really is the last thing I do with SteamOS. Cyberpunk runs, obviously. And now I'm really signing off from this video. Have a good one.